Howdy-ho, boys and girls. It's time for another Jeep Talk Show interview. We're going to be talking with Zach from Dana. Zach grew up four-wheeling in his Jeep J10 pickup in the mountains of Pennsylvania. I didn't know there was mountains in Pennsylvania. I'm in Texas. We definitely don't have any mountains. Well, we do, but it's really far away. After some time in the U.S. Army and Penn State for BS in mechanical engineering, that's got to be worth its weight in gold. I mean, because you can say I have a BS. Because, men are very good at BSing. In mechanical engineering, he spent some time working at the former New Venture gear design. Oh, I remember New Venture. I think my was it my transfer case? Right. Was a New Venture on the XJ or something. Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. Designing transfer cases. Oh, yeah. Designing transfer cases before making his way to Dana Corp, where he now runs Aftermarket Engineering. Dana AFM Engineering, Aftermarket Engineering, is responsible for the Ultimate Dana 60. Oh, I bet you the people just bug the hell out of you about that thing. Free ones, I'm sure. The Ultimate Dana 44 and the Ultimate Dana 80 series of crate axles. He also leads Dana's trip to Moab, Utah every spring for Easter Jeep Safari. I've been twice now, and I wish I'd known you were there. Because oh my God, what a wonderful place! I guess you've been a million times.
Yeah, a couple.
What about? Are you tired of it? Are you tired of Moab yet?
I always say if I ever stop being amazed when I go there, I'll stop going. But
Good. I don't
see me not going anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I don't know Pennsylvania. Never been to Pennsylvania, but I can imagine that it's probably as dissimilar to Pennsylvania as it is Texas.
Yeah, quite a bit. Everything in Pennsylvania is green. It's trees, and there's mountains, but it's trees and foliage, and there just isn't any of that in Moab.
Yeah, so it's like being on another planet. I say this time and time again. Like I said, I've only been 2 times, 2023 and 2024. 2023, my wife would not go with me. I was hoping she would, because I know enough about it, or I knew enough about it, that it was something very worth, the sights is very worth being there in person. And that's the scale of things, how big everything is and how small you are. I've always enjoyed that about weather. Whenever there's a large weather system, the weather is just so big and powerful, and you get that same sense of scale whenever you're out there in Moab. But it's so cool. I got her to go this year with me, and it was neat watching her be amazed as we were getting closer to Moab and seeing those. I can't call them boulders. I guess mountains. They look like big rocks, big boulders on the ground. And just seeing her be amazed by that. Now, I'll tell you, I think this is funny. We were trying to get to, I think it's Long Canyon. It's the one that's really easy. It's very scenic. You're down in the V. And I went there last year. I wanted to take her there because it's not scary. She's still scared, but it's not scary. And then we wound up, I went the wrong way. I missed the turn, and we went up Schaefer's Trail. I think that's what it's called. Where you go back and forth up the side of the thing. I thought it was amazing. She was freaking out, but she survived.
Did you go back down the same way? Because that was worse.
No, we went up, and then we went over, and then we had spent so much time getting to that point that we didn't go to Long Canyon. We actually went to Long Canyon the second day. And she tells me, there's a couple of dips on Long Canyon where you drive down. And she said, if we had not gone with what we did yesterday, this would have terrified me. But now this is nothing. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was great having somebody that had never experienced it, just like I was in 2023. So,
I got to take my family out for Bronco Safari last year, 23. So I took my wife and my daughters out to Moab for the first time, because I've been going for years, but they've never been. And they were blown away. They really enjoyed it.
Didn't it just kill you? Because you know that it's just something, when you have a loved one, children, a spouse, you want them to experience that same thing, because even if they're not into off-roading, just the size and the scale and the majesty of everything.
Right. And that's why it was nice to take him at Bronco Safari, because it's not nearly as crazy as EJS is. It's a lot more laid back, fewer vehicles.
Now, when you go to EJS, do you go on the runs with Red Rock, or do you do your own?
We do both. We do some of our own, which I lead. We do some of the Red Rock because we want to sponsor the Red Rock four-wheelers. So we sponsor some of the trails. So we'll go out, they'll trail lead. We just get to be the sponsor and, talk to the people that want to sign up for our trail ride. And once we get off the trail, we'll, maybe give them some goodie bags or some trash bags, things like that.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why I ask is that when we went out there, we had 23 Jeep Talk Show people out at the 2024 one, which I'm very proud of. That's why I keep mentioning it, not to you, but on the show, because I was so amazed that we had so many people out there. But we go off and do things on our own. A lot of people are concerned about how busy it is and how slow it is to go on the trails because there's so many Jeeps involved. We didn't run into that. And I think a lot of people have that concern. And I think a lot of people think that you have to go on the scheduled trails. Now, they will close trails down, my understanding is, when Red Rock is using them. But there's a lot of trails out there at Moab.
Right, and there is, and the Red Rock four-wheelers submit all the permits to the BLM to close the trails for their use on specific days, and they try to have a guide published that says when they're going to be using trails and when they're not, and also if you're driving towards a trail, they'll have a couple of signs up that says this particular trail is open today or not open today, and usually in the morning you sit down with the guidebook and you see what's closed that day and you figure out the kind of group you're with and you say, okay, we can go do this or we can go do this or we can go do this. So, and whichever it is, if you want to do some harder four-wheeling, you're going to do something that's more scenic, or if you want both, you can decide what it is and just try and avoid whatever the Red Rock four-wheelers are doing.
Yeah, and I only mention that not because it's the purpose of this interview, but a lot of people would like to go, and sometimes they would like to go to the big show, the place to go whenever it is a Jeep thing, the big Jeep thing, but they're concerned about it being busy. I've never been that isn't EJS, and I didn't have any problem with the crowds or anything. It was fine. I don't think we were ever stopped, except when we were stopped to take a pee break.
Yeah, there's a lot of people have a lot of negative thoughts about things that they've never been a part of, and that's unfortunate. A few years ago, sometimes there would be groups that managed to get on the trail when the Red Rock four-wheelers would be on that trail, and then they would be complaining that they would be behind a large group of Jeeps, and it was really their own fault because they shouldn't have been there in the first place. So, but other than that, if you get to a trailhead and there's 50 Jeeps going out in front of you, pick another trail or wait an hour and then go out.
The sheer scale of things, and I'm not talking about the size of stuff, just how big the whole area is. I mean, you're talking about trails that are 30 miles apart. So you could definitely find some place to go. All right. You mentioned Bronco. You were out there with Bronco. Now, I'm going to show my ignorance. I think I told you at the beginning, I don't know a lot about this. It's kind of good, though, because I'm going to ask the dumbass questions that the other people that don't know don't have to. I can be the fool. So you said Bronco. Does that mean Bronco has Dana axles?
From the factory, yes, it does.
Very cool. So did you guys try to talk them out of IFS on the front?
Bronco actually put together a council of a lot of people in the industry, and Dana was one of the only tier one suppliers that was on the Bronco Council. And one of the things they told us from day one is it will be IFS because of ride quality. And let's be honest, 95 or higher percentage of the time it's going to the mall or the supermarket or whatever it is, it's on road. And the independent front suspension is superior in stock form to a Jeep suspension in stock form, and even off-road at speed, it is really, really good. It's only when you get into more hardcore technical rock crawling that you wind up with a tire in the air all of the time.
Right. So the IFS, is that Dana?
We make what we call the front drive unit or the front axle. So when you have an independent front suspension, the axle doesn't move like a beam axle does. So it's rigid, mounted to the frame, and then the half shafts that go down to the wheels, they move along with the suspension, like the A-arm suspension. But Dana makes what we call the front drive unit, and then we make the rear beam axle.
So that makes slow, like rock crawling, more difficult, doesn't it?
Independent front suspension, you mean?
Yes.
Well, you can cover a lot of sins of independent front suspension with locking differentials. So you're not going to realize so much that one of the tires is off the ground if you've got both lockers on. and you're coming up something and one of the tires comes off the ground. Doesn't really matter because you're putting power to tires that still have traction.
Right. So does that also mean that when you have a tire up in the air, you have that counterweight that it might encourage a rollover?
Not as much as you might think, because when I first started driving the Bronco, it would get a tire off the ground and you would feel it. If you knew what you were doing, you'd feel that you were hanging a tire and like, hey, there's no weight on that tire. But after a little bit of driving, and I'm like, okay, there's no weight on that tire. So what? I'm still firm. I'm still got three tires on the ground. I'm not anywhere close to rolling over. I feel okay. And it kind of changed the way that I drive, and now I'll be driving and I get a tire off the ground in one of my Jeeps and people around me are losing their minds. And I'm like, no, we're good. We're really good. In fact, the one that's behind me that I have, my background is coming down over Moab Rim. And I had one of the trail guides, when we were coming down, just coming down Devil's Crack, he had me way too far to the driver's side to kind of miss that little step down rock. And he's guiding me over there. And I'm like, are you sure? So I dropped the front left tire off, and the right rear just came up big. And I saw his eyes get big and he goes running. I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. Just a tire in the air. We're all right. And I drove down off of it, but he really thought we were going off the cliff. So, and if I hadn't probably had so much seat time in the Bronco, I probably would have been a little more excited. But a tire off the ground doesn't bother me quite so much anymore.
See, this is why I think spotters should have a certificate that they present to you before they start doing spotting. It's like, wait a minute, let me see your certification.
Well, if you're going to do that, then you got to show me that as a driver you can listen. So
no, that's over the edge right there.
Let's not get crazy, right?
That's right. That's crazy talk. So now if anybody would know, you would know. So when is Jeep going IFS on their Wrangler and Gladiator?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
See, I'm baiting you here. Tell me something you shouldn't tell me.
If I did, I couldn't tell you anyway. But I've heard nothing of that effect.
This is like the congressional hearings on UAPs. I could tell you, but I'd have to take you into a skiff. Yeah, I don't think that'll ever fly with Jeepers. And would that still be the same thing? I mean, it bothers me, the idea for a Jeep having a nice ride. Certainly the ride is nicer now than what it was with the TJs or the XJ, especially when you start changing out the bushings to the polyurethane. But I would not be happy with the IFS front end. I've always said you can build IFS as strong as a solid front axle, but it's going to cost a hell of a lot more. Do you think that's a correct statement?
I mean, I don't know. The bigger of the two front axles that goes in the Bronco, it is a Dana 44 Advantech size. So it's essentially Rubicon front axle size. Mm-hmm. So the strength as far as the ring gear and the shaft size is concerned, at least when it comes to the aftermarket one that Dana makes, is essentially the same. 37, 38 inch tall tires, you're going to be fine. You start getting 40-inch tires on and driving aggressively, you're still got 40-inch tires on a Dana 44. So
yeah, it's still pretty universal as far as potentials, potentially breaking things. Now, so on the Bronco central unit, I guess you would call that like the differential, whatever the equivalent is in IFS. You guys had nothing to do with the tie rod ends, the ones that break.
No, nothing at all.
Time out.
No, that was all Ford.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I could see, I can't see Ford engineers going, yeah, you'll be fine. I'm sure they were screaming, this is going to be an issue if you go to use this thing off road. And I understand they want to sell, they want to save a nickel anytime they can, but it's bad PR.
Well, sure, but at the same time, now I'm going to give you my opinion here. This is not officially Dana speaking. They've got lawyers on their side who are saying, okay, you can put 35-inch tires on it and test it, but you're not going to put 37s on or 38s or those kinds of things. And most of the time, the people driving those know what they're doing. Unfortunately, when a Jeep guy or someone that's never off-roaded gets a hold of a Bronco and doesn't know how to drive it and starts getting the front end bouncing, that's a recipe for disaster. You're going to
Sure.
break a tie rod, you're going to break a front end. It's just you can't drive them the same as a Jeep. And we have a built Bronco, and I love it. It does great. It goes out to Moab and does everything all the Jeeps do. It's just the one rule is you don't buck the Bronco.
Hmm.
If that front end starts to hop, get out of it
Oh yeah.
right away. I
Well,
don't care if you
that's
have to
good.
do the back down of shame. Get out of it.
Yeah, that's good advice
Gonna
for a
break some.
Jeep too. You don't want to be bouncing the
Sure,
front end of a Jeep either.
sure.
Yeah.
But it's got bigger consequences when you do it in a Bronco.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
when you're doing it in your Jeep, you're not as worried about your tie rods and things like that. You're more worried about shafts and U-joints and things like that. Whereas when it's in the front end, when it's in an independent front end, you've got a lot more things bouncing and it can go wrong.
Oh, let me ask you about this. We recently had one of our hosts get some RCV axles for her JKU. And I understand what a constant velocity joint is, but I always get concerned about if you remove that fuse, the U joint in the axle, now you're going to break something else. Does Dana do constant velocity axles, or is it all U joint? At least from the Jeep
Some
world.
of the axles that we provide for JK, particularly with the all-wheel drive transfer case, have what we call a constant velocity, a Zeppa joint at the wheel. So yes, we provide both kinds to Jeep.
How do you
So
feel about the removing that? And again, I call it a fuse. The cheap Spicer U joint that's in the axle, replacing that, because if you're going to break something, that's probably what's going to break. It's easy to change, easy-ish to change, and very inexpensive.
well, keep in mind, it's still the fuse. It's still the weakest link in the driveline because like you said about the U joint, Spicer U joints are the best U joints in the world and they last really long, but they're designed to be what breaks
Hmm.
so that it's not an axle shaft. It's not a diff case side gear. It's not a ring and pinion. Hopefully, what breaks often that fuse is that U joint. And that's
Hmm.
why it's supposed to be there. But it's the same way with a CV out at the wheel. I mean, the CVs are not so strong that they're now stronger than whatever shaft they're on, a 35 spline shaft or a 32 spline shaft or whatever it is. They're still the fuse.
Oh, good.
So I'm not as big a fan of them simply because of how much I dislike the boots. Because they're, even the performance one, they're forever tearing and they take a lot of maintenance. And and the cage cracks and it clicks all the time. That's personal preference. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guys running a lot of RCV shafts and they do great. Dana sells upgraded half shafts for the Bronco for both the 29 spline front drive unit and the big 32 spline front drive unit, which are Model 210, Dana 44 Advantech. We sell upgraded versions of those. And they're CVs on both ends, higher angles, more strength than the original units, but they're still a fuse.
Hmm. Good. I'm glad to hear that, because it always makes me nervous, because changing out the ring and pinion or replacing the axle out on the trail is not nearly as fun as doing the U joints. And I neglected to mention this. If people want to look up on the website, especially while you're watching or listening to this interview, you want to go to spicerparts.com. spicerparts.com. Now there is a Dana, I don't know if it's Dana.com or Dana Corp, I can't remember, .com website, but that's kind of the business, the main business side, not where people would go and purchase parts and things or axles.
Right. There's a Dana.com, and that is the corporate site. There's also a Dana Aftermarket.com, and that is more the aftermarket side where our established customers order and buy parts from. Spicer Parts is where a lot of the information and the catalogs and the literature are. So, hey, I want to find out if Dana makes this. I need a year, make, model search for this. You can do it on DanaAftermarket.com, but if you're old school and you like a catalog that's now scanned into PDF, that's where Spicer Parts comes in.
Gotcha. So Spicer Parts is probably the main place where you would go to get more information on the axles. Now, and I'm going to show my ignorance again. Is that all you guys have is axles and parts for the axles?
No, not at all. Dana's a very large OE company, and they've got 4 or 5 main divisions. So we do axles, of course. We do a lot of drive shafts. We do some half shafts. So the front and rear drive shaft on every Jeep Wrangler and Jeep Gladiator are Dana drive shafts.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yep. And and they all have CVs in them, high speed CVJs, which are drive shaft CVJs. We also have a gasket and sealing line called Victor Reinz. It's been around for over 100 years. It's a 100-year-old gasket brand. So if you go into your local auto parts store and they're looking for a particular gasket, they'll give you a choice of a couple different companies, and one of them will be Victor Reinz. That's a Dana product. We also do we also have axles and drive shafts for heavy vehicle, like commercial vehicle, Mack trucks, Peterbilts, all of those all run Dana axles and Dana drive lines. We have an electrification division that is
really
electrifying everything from the smallest golf cart to the largest earth moving machines. We've got an electric Peterbilt. So, they've purchased and developed a lot of EV technology over, say, the last 8 or 10 years. And Dana's doing a lot in electrification. And add to that, we have a cooling line, a thermal line called Long, that we make some like transmission coolers and things like that. So Dana's got a lot of different divisions.
Very, very cool. And I'm glad I asked that. I had no idea. I mean, I think that's the common thing, though. When people hear Dana, it's axles, because you guys are very well known for axles. And sometimes the axles are infamous. I asked you before we started the show about the Dana 35. What the hell were you guys thinking?
Well, for the record, we weren't thinking. It wasn't our choice. For those of you that know their history, AMC, when they were making their own axles for a while, they had an AMC 10 and an AMC 20.
Right.
And Jeep paid a lot of money for the tooling to make those two axles, because AMC was providing them once they bought AMC. So they were putting them in their cars. And then some of the AMC 20s, they went in the CJs and then the full-size Jeeps for a little while. Well, they had paid this money for this tooling and they didn't want it to go to waste. So they said, Dana, hey, we want you to make this AMC 10 for us. And I think Dana said, hey, it's kind of not really in our line. And Jeep said, you want this business or not? So Dana kept making the AMC 10, which is the Dana 35.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And it wasn't up to Dana. If it was up to Dana, they wouldn't have put it in the line. They would have kept using a Dana 44. But Jeep had a lot of money sank into this equipment, and so Dana made those axles for them for as long as they needed them, and tried to get rid of it as soon as they could.
So is this a sore spot for the Dana people? But when you, I mean, I think that you know how you spell God with a capital G. And if it's a demigod or a lesser god, it's a lowercase g. I think that would be a lowercase d for the Dana, for the Dana 35.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I don't like them any more than anybody else does. But by the same token, if you're going to run 33s to 35, upgrade your axles. You know full well you should be trying to run those axles on a Dana 35. I mean, if it's in an old XJ or something, get you a 488 with disc brakes or something, don't run the 35.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But it would be really cool if it just wasn't there to start with. I think, and that's one of the things, like especially on the forums, and I'm sure you've seen it too, where people are trying to identify their rear axle, and then you have to be, you can sense the disappointment when you tell them it's a Dana 35. Yeah. It's, if you're worried about it, it's going to be what you're worried about. So that's cool. I'm glad. That's a good history lesson. I did not know that. And that's a good response. It's Jeep's fault is basically what I heard.
Exactly right.
Is there any other, I mean, I know about the Dana 35. Is there any other axle? I mean, we're not trying to be negative here, but is there any other axle that people should be concerned about from Dana that has the Dana name? Because, when it says Dana, you go, wow, that's great. Well, except for that 35. Is there another one you guys is infamous Dana axle?
No, not for a long time. Like there was a Dana 50 front end for a while that people get disappointed when someone dupes them and sells them that, and they think they have a Dana 60 front end, but it's really only a Dana 50. And, parts aren't as readily available for those as they are for other things. But when the customers stay out of Dana's way, we make some really fantastic axles.
Yeah, isn't that the case? Well, I think that's the same. Like I was mentioning earlier, that's the same thing. I think with the Ford engineers, they probably didn't want to put that crap, those crappy tie rods on the Bronco. Oh, I was going to ask you about the Bronco earlier. So I've heard that it is hard to see going off road in the Bronco because of the shape of the front end. It's difficult to see what's coming up in front. It's wide and it's kind of high. Does that sound familiar?
It does, and I even have a cowl hood on our Bronco, so it's a little worse. But if you're coming strictly from the Jeep world, then yes, you're going to be like, oh man, I'm trying to see over the hood. But it's just an object lesson in look a little further down the trail. Mm-hmm. And then drive a little bit, and the trail is going to come back to you. It's going to be there. Just, you've got to play a little game of memory in your head. Okay, my tire's going to go up on this rock, and then I'm going to come over, and then I'm going to be able to see the trail again. And you can stretch your neck as much as you want. In a Bronco or in a Jeep, you're never going to be able to see the trail if your front end is pointed up. You've got to know you're in the right line, creep forward, and then let it come back to you.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I had a buddy, and he has an 81 Scrambler. And we have a event every year here in Texas, and he jumped in the Gladiator with me as a passenger, and he was commenting. He goes, "I don't see how you can see. You don't," because he has this 81, and he hangs out that little bitty Scrambler, that I think it's that 81 Gladiator, 81 Scrambler, and he hangs out. He can see, and he knows. And I'm just driving along, and then he's talking to me, and I have to be careful with exactly what you're talking about, because if I'm not keeping up with where that drop was, I can't see it. And then if I get busy doing something else, the radio or talking to somebody, all of a sudden, boom! Oh, that was But it's fine, but it gets a little nerve wracking, and you can take off sometimes if you're not careful. So I guess it's the same thing. It's not necessarily a Bronco issue.
Yeah, not necessarily. There's a lot that are a lot worse. I mean, if you've wheeled in some of the other brands that I won't name, just because we have to show a little love to everybody, and we've got just about one of everything in our stable. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are a lot worse than wheeling a Jeep or wheeling a Bronco.
So you gave a little bit of a history lesson earlier about the Dana axles. How long has Dana been in Jeeps? It sounds like Dana has been in Jeeps since almost when Jeeps were created.
Oh, well, I don't know if you realize it or not, but Dana is one of the 5 companies that's credited with the invention of the Jeep. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
So it's the U.S. Army. It's Willys Overland. It's Ford. It's the Bantam Car Company, and Dana. That's the 5 companies that are officially credited with the invention of the Jeep. Because when the Jeep was made, it was a Dana front axle, a Dana rear axle, Dana front and rear drive shafts, and a Dana transfer case. And they were there from the very beginning on the Bantam reconnaissance cars, on the very first Willys prototypes, and even on some of the first Ford prototypes. It was all, Spicer stuff. It was all Dana parts.
What's the difference between Spicer and Dana?
So Spicer is officially Dana's aftermarket and service brand. So when you buy an axle from Jeep, you buy a Dana axle. When you go to the auto parts store and you buy a U-joint, it's a Spicer U-joint, so a Spicer part. Clarence Spicer was the engineer that designed the U-joint back in 1904, essentially unchaining the automotive industry, because before that it was literally chain and sprockets, and the encased U-joint allowed it to go. It allowed it to transfer torque at an angle. And it basically took it out of the chain and sprocket era and took it into more of a modern era, and it's developed a lot since then. But you look at the original patent from 1904 for the U-joint, doesn't look all that different from what a U-joint looks like today. That
has to be amazing to engineer something that lasts that long, is used that long, and with minimal changes. I just thought of something. There's also often a discussion about U-joints being the ones that have the fitting where you can grease them, not being as strong as the ones that don't have greasable fittings on it. So what's the skinny on that?
Well, there's really 2 main differences are what we call the 10 series U joint, like a 5-153X. It's a
Mhm.
1310 series U joint. It's a U joint that, Jeep put in Jeeps forever. It's a great U joint. It'll last you longer than just about everything out on the market. It's got a grease fitting in so you can grease it. That's the good news. The bad news is people don't grease them, or they'll put 6 different kinds of grease in, whatever happens to be in the tube. Um, and the downside of when you have a greasable U joint is the seals can't be as good on the caps because it needs to be able to purge that grease out.
Right.
Now, the SPL version of Dana Spicer U joints are the best ones that we make, and they have a warm forged cross instead of a cast cross. And there is a greasable version of those, so they are stronger because of the process and material of the U joint, but they're still cross drilled, and they have lesser seals, if you will, because you've got to be able to purge the grease.
Right.
But there's also a non-greasable version of SPL that we call solids that aren't cross drilled, and they are still warm forged, and they have a triple lip seal that grips like grim death. When the caps are pressed all the way on, you got to put it in a vise and use a pliers.
Wow.
Those caps back off. And the other thing I like to do is when I'm talking with someone about a U joint is I'll take a cap and I'll drop it on purpose. And I'll watch people's faces go,
Yeah.
because they know, because they've done it. Now they're going to, spend time picking up needles and trying to
Cleaning
get
them and
and the modern ones, the needles don't come out. They're captured. So that and they last, way more than a million cycles on our test stands. So much so that we just have to take them off and stop at some point because once it's time to come off.
Right. It's Christmas. You guys take the day off. So you just said something I want to ask about the different grease types. It kind of makes sense, but what is the bad thing about using different types of grease? And I'm assuming you don't mean like the standard petroleum based grease or is it the mixture between synthetic and petroleum based or?
Well, exactly. When you start mixing greases, when you have, you might use synthetic one time, you might have lawnmower grease in it the next time, you might have not high temp, wheel bearing grease in it. You could have just regular low temp grease. You're banking on sometimes the guy at the local auto change place, the oil change place, having the right grease in his gun, or
I didn't even think about that.
you have fittings there at all. Because when I first, like my first Jeep was a 79 J10, and I would go in there and they'd be like, "Hey, we got 3 fittings." I'm like, "Keep looking." There's like 12. Each front U joint has one. The axle U joints have one. Drive shaft, front drive shaft has like 3, and just keep looking. And then I would go down and I'd point to where they were, and after a while I realized, either I'm going to do it or I'm going to put solids in it. I'm never going to have to worry about them again.
Right. And this is a good one. And I've never understood this. It may be common knowledge, but why does a U joint go dry? The non-greasable ones, the ones that are sealed from the factory and you put on, and they go dry and the bearings get chewed up.
Well, typically because the seals are so good and they come with a reservoir of ultra premium synthetic grease, they don't typically go dry. They will. But, after 150,000 miles or 200,000 miles, change a U joint.
Okay. So it's just the typical nature. I was wondering about running through water at high speed or any of that stuff that causes that.
No, the seals in the non-greasable ones are so good. Water intrusion is next to nothing now. But that is a problem when you have the greasable ones. You'll run through water, and because the seals have to be able to purge, they're not great seals. Mm-hmm. So water can get in there, and then you don't grease them, and then everything starts to rust, and the needles just grind themselves to pieces.
All right. So it's just one of those things whenever, I guess what I'm saying is, why can't I go longer than 150,000 miles? Damn it. I just want that thing to last forever. And I'm sure you guys would too.
Well, and that's the thing. Typically, our U joints last a really, really long time. And then, people will get, even with hard offered, you still get 80 or 90 or 100,000 miles out of their U joint, and then they'll change them to somebody else for the next set. And then they're surprised. Hey, changing these, 10 or 15,000 miles. I just did these. Mm-hmm. Well, your first set got you how many miles? Why didn't you buy them again?
Yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn. I don't mess with if I'm replacing U joints. It's not a fun thing to do to begin with. Put something in there and go back with what got you all those miles to start with. So you guys make ball joints as well, don't you?
No. Dana hasn't had a chassis division in a long time.
I thought you did. I thought you had Spicer.
Now we sell ball joints because they're part of our standard service parts, and because they go in an OE or a stock axle, if you will, they have to be an OE automotive grade ball joint, meaning they're better than 99% of the ball joints out there. Mm-hmm. So again, your Dana Spicer set of ball joints lasts you 80, 90,000 miles, and you're replacing with somebody else's, and then you're doing them again in 2 years, put the Spicer ones back in.
Right. So the axles, what is the I guess the most axles that you guys sell? The people are upgrading. Do they probably have a Dana 44 on their Jeep already? Would it be the ultimate Dana 60 or the 80? I don't know the difference between the 60 and the 80. I've seen 60s before. I don't know what the hell the 80 is.
Okay, well, let me break that down because you kind of ask a lot of questions there. Probably the most popular aftermarket axle that we sell is the Ultimate Dana 44 upgrade. We have it. It's a bolt-in plug-in replacement for JK, JL, and JT. So really popular when someone has a non-Rubicon, a Dana 30, they get to pick their gear ratio, pick their locking differential. Comes with chromoly axle shafts, beefed up tubes and brackets and all kinds of other good things, and all the best stuff that we put in it. And it's really easy to install. If you can install lift kit, you can install any of these axles. So they go right in, whether it's a replacement in your stock vehicle that's your Dana 30 got bent, or even in an accident. A lot of body shops buy them because they're a better deal than trying to get another Dana 30. Mm-hmm. But it's also obviously an off-road upgrade. So, and even if you do have a Rubicon, it's an upgrade even over a Rubicon axle.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So, and then the Ultimate Dana 60 axles, in its first form is a full floating, full width, 1-ton style axle. That's again a bolt-in plug-in replacement for the front and rear of JK, JL, JT.
That's nice.
So it's based on a 1-ton series of axles. So it's a Dana 60 front, Dana 60 rear, great big thick tube, 35 spline chromoly axle shafts, SPL 70.
Stop! I can only get so.
It's eight lug axles, so you got to change your wheels.
Yeah.
You can only fit, so many things.
Wheels are the cheapest part of this.
And when you get that, again, your choice of gear ratio, your choice of locker, but it's also got 2,500, 3,500 Dodge Ram brakes. So they're 14-inch disc brakes with dual piston calipers at all four corners. It's kind of hard to beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see why people go to them. Okay, now the Dana 80.
So the Dana 80 is based on the Dana 80 ring and pinion, which, like the rear Dana 60, is 248 millimeters. That's the diameter. So 9 3/4 inch. Mm-hmm. The Dana 80 rear axle is 286 millimeters. So 11 1/4 inches. So larger in diameter, 4-inch diameter tubes, 40 spline axle shafts, just 10,000 pound or greater axle weight carrying capacity. Just Dana 60s have been great for a long time, but now that we're getting into great big crate engines, Hellcats, Demons, some of these LSX swaps, and 42, 43, 44-inch tall sticky tires, they're outpacing a Dana 60 rear. So we came out with a Dana 80 rear. So if somebody wants to make that kind of build, they can buy one rear axle and not have to worry about it anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I would assume that with the larger ring gear, that means better pinion ring gear engagement and less likely to cause issues there with the Dana 80.
It's better strength. You've got a larger diameter, mm-hmm. So you've got a better lever arm because it's a larger diameter. But just bigger bearings, bigger shafts, bigger case, larger everything's stronger.
So I know that when you get a Dana 60 out of the junkyard, and then you got to shave the Dana 60 so you can get some clearance. Assuming you're not going with 44s or 42-inch tires and stuff, is the ultimate Dana 60? Do you guys take that into account and kind of get more ground clearance?
It's not shaved per se. That's more.
Well, you guys wouldn't shave yours; you would just design them the right way.
Right, we do. Now the rears. The rears, not so much. The rears have good clearance under them. The front, we actually made a new housing. We rotated the cover face kind of back, so the cover doesn't sit straight up and down. It leans back, and then we put 3 large ribs on the bottom of the case, so that kind of when you hit, you'll kind of scoot over them instead of catching the rib, and it's all high clearance, so everything's up out of the way. The front axle, we spent a lot of work on designing that front housing how off-roaders would want it to be.
That's going to be exciting too, as an off-roader, getting in there and doing things based on what you've learned off-road. It'd be nice if we could just do this or another. I think that would be an exciting part of that job. And how long have you been doing this for been at Dana?
I've been at Dana on and off since 2004.
Okay. So, do you ever get to test something that maybe it's brand new and you're taking it out and give people a little feedback?
All the time.
Oh, that's fun.
Right. Like the Jeep that's over my shoulder there, that's coming down over Moab Rim, that has a kingpin version of an Ultimate Dana 60 front and the first 40 spline Dana 80 that we ever did. So a lot of our
spline, my God.
Yeah, a lot of our Dana vehicles are test beds for our axles and driveline components.
Ah, gee, this sounds like a dream job. Do you ever pinch yourself like every day?
Everybody wants the tiny little piece of my job that they can see.
Oh,
the rest of it, not so much.
There's always some sucky stuff. It's like if you always want to be a police officer and finding out about all the paperwork you got to do. Oh, and there's the meetings. Oh God, the meetings. If you really want to get nothing done, have a meeting.
Have a meeting.
You don't have to agree with that. I don't want to get you in trouble. So it really, really sounds exciting. We've been wanting to get somebody from Dana on for a while because it's such an exciting thing. I don't think I've ever heard a negative thing about Dana. I don't think I've ever heard anything like, well, you should try this instead of a Dana axle. Dana is like the axle to go with. Let me ask you this. So I don't know what the difference between the Ultimate Dana 44 and the Dana 44 that I have on my Max Tow Gladiator, because I thought I had a high-end Dana 44. What's the difference between the Ultimate Dana 44 and the Max Tow, which I've been told is a Rubicon axle, the Dana 4, what is it, M210, M220 models that are on there. So other than, obviously you can go with the Dana 60 and do better, but there's a 44 I could put on there that's better, is what you're telling me.
For the front, there is, yes. So, like the Ultimate Dana 44s, we make our front axles only.
Good. Thank God.
Almost every JK, JL, and JT already have a Dana 44 or a Dana 44 Advantech. When it came to JL and JT, the Advantech series of axles came out. So that's where the Model 210 front, Model 220 rear comes in. So it's still a Dana 44 size, but it's a completely different axle because it's got a lot of advanced technology in it. It's actually a little bit smaller than the previous axle. Like the old Super Dana 44 was a 226 millimeter axle. The new rear axle is a Model 220, so it's technically 6 millimeters smaller, but there's a significant increase in strength with that axle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, smaller is not always doesn't necessarily mean bad, because it, like you say, it depends on how it's designed and the materials that are used and so on and so forth. I guess what the Ultimate Dana 44, putting that on the Gladiator, would mean I could put larger tires and more horsepower to it, and it would survive longer.
Right, and when you have a Gladiator, you already have a Model 210 front axle because they don't use Dana 30s and Gladiators.
Thank God.
Right. Again, not our choice. That was Jeep wanted to have a base model, so that's why the Dana 30 is still hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
But even, like I said, even if you have a Rubicon JL or JT, the Ultimate Dana 44 is an upgrade. It's got thicker tubes. It's got thicker brackets designed in more of an aftermarket style. So they're like the lower control arms act like a skid plate and not a scoop like the original ones. It's got the tube yoke, or the inner C, people call it, is significantly increased in strength. It's got chromoly axle shaft. It actually has a 1410 series U joint at the wheel instead of the
Wow.
1350 one that the factory does. So it's stronger. It's still the fuse, but it's stronger than the stock one. And again, this comes in like 6 different gear ratios, 2 different locker choices. And it plugs in and bolts in. So the ABS works.
See, that's so cool. There's no welding, there's no grinding, there's no cutting. It's just take it out and roll the other one up there and hook it up. I love that aspect. I can do that.
Right. And then that's what a lot of people discount. They're like, well, I'll get a junkyard axle. Cool. Get a junkyard axle. Goodness. Your time is free. And then they put it in and they're like, well, when I roll it in to get the caster I need, my drive shaft's pointing at the ground. Well, it's because it wasn't designed to be an off-road axle, and you don't have the separation angle built in between the tube yokes and the the pinion angle. So that's why when you design it as an off-road axle, you can roll in 6, 7, 8 degrees of caster, and the pinion angle still not go negative.
Wow. So, okay. So, I'm not saying I'm talking for the people out there that have money. So I'm going to replace the front axle on my Gladiator or the 30 on the JLU. How do I know if I want to go, the Ultimate Dana 44 or the Dana series? Now, obviously you got to change front and rear, I would think, especially if it's different, more lugs on one than the other. But why wouldn't you go with the Dana 44 over Dana 60? Price, I'm sure, is one reason, but as far as
it is, it also depends upon what you're trying to do with it. I mean, if you're trying to go, no bigger than 37-inch tire, and you do some mild or even moderate off-roading, then you get an Ultimate Dana 44 and you put it in, and then you change the gear set in the rear axle to match your front, and you go out and you have a blast. Mm-hmm. But if your plan is to run 40-inch tires, because we all know 37s are the gateway drug to 40s.
Oh yeah.
And 40s are the gateway drug to 42s.
Yep.
So, if that's the size tire that you plan on running, and if you drive aggressively, and if you've got an engine swap, a Hemi swap, an LS swap, whatever it is, you're going to outpace your stock style drivetrain. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's time to go to Ultimate Dana 60 full float axles, front and rear. Now, there is kind of a intermediate step there that something Dana's just recently launched, which is a semi-float version of the Dana 60 rear. That's the same bolt pattern as the Ultimate 44 front. So it's kind of the mate to the Ultimate Dana 44 front axle is the Ultimate Dana 60 semi-float rear axle. So if you don't want to re-gear your rear and you want to upgrade it anyway, you can buy that pair of axles, not have to change your wheels and tires. You can keep your wheels and tires, because then your brakes, they'll bolt right onto these axles and they'll go right back in.
There's a lot for that, a lot to be said for that option, because that's something you could do at home, and it's really just get the torques and get the bolts in the right holes and go. Plus you get the advantage of everything. Now, I've had it explained to me before, and I forget how it works, but what is the difference between full float and semi-float, other than it being half a float?
Think of it this way. Think of it as the job of the axle shaft. So first of all, every front axle is a full float. It has to be, simply because it's a steering axle. Mm-hmm. It is a full float. Whether it's hub units or twin tapered roller bearings and a hub, they're all full float. So the rear axle. In a rear axle on a semi float, the axle shaft has 2 jobs. Those 2 jobs are support the weight of the vehicle and transmit torque. Because when you have a semi float axle, you've got a flange that typically the rotor or the drum covers, but you're bolting the wheel to the axle shaft.
Right.
So that shaft is carrying the weight of the vehicle, and it's got to transmit torque. when you have a full float vehicle, you walk up to it and you've got the bolt pattern, then you've got that smaller bolt pattern right in the axle shaft. That axle shaft only has one job, and that's to transmit torque, because the weight of the vehicle is held up by the housing itself. Because you could go up to that housing, unbolt that smaller circle, pull that axle shaft out, it's not going to fall on the ground, because the housing and the hub is what's holding the weight of the vehicle. Whereas if you were to try and pull the axle shaft, if you've ever destroyed a bearing on a semi-float axle, the wheel and the rest of the shaft will kind of pass you on the road. It's a very unsettling feeling.
Dana 35.
That's a semi-float. Whereas when you have a full float, you can snap an axle shaft and never really know it, because the wheel's not gonna come off the vehicle.
So why are not all axles full float?
Cost. And they don't need it. Your little Dana 35 didn't need to be a full float.
Right.
All right. So, a regular Jeep Wrangler, because of the weight carrying capacity and the torque that the motor is putting out and those kinds of things, you don't need it.
Right.
It's not necessary. It's when you get into big tires, big engines, that's when you need big axles.
Very good. Very good. Well, I appreciate the lesson here. It helps not only me, but our listeners that are wondering about this, because I know they're just like me. They get all excited about, Ultimate Dana 44. I need to get that. I replaced that Dana 30 on about the front of my LJ, my JLU. And it's like, well, but what is that? What is this? Because my wife's going to ask me questions. I need to be able to have good responses. So I appreciate you going through it with us. Now, I know how the kids love the social media where they can see pictures and do things and stuff. Is Spicer Dana on the Instagram, the TikToks, all those social media places? Yeah,
we've got an Instagram page. We've got a Facebook page. We've got a really good YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
Where we've got tons of videos of us in Moab and us at different shows. There's some how-to videos there about installing these axles, changing gear ratios. Now, I will tell you, the acting is terrible, but the information is pretty good.
Oh, I always tell people content is the most important thing. We try to have good audio and video just because we want to stand that much above everybody else, but content is number one. So, I got a gotcha question. For the lockers, electric or ARB?
Gas or diesel?
I don't think either one of them use gas or diesel.
No, I'm saying gas or diesel, manual or automatic. It is completely user choice.
So you agree with me, ARB then?
Yeah, if you're going to have an air compressor, on board anyway, have ARBs. Make sure you have the little airline repair kit, because it's certainly easier to get your electric locker working again by fixing a wire than it is to find out where that airline is broken.
I just found out recently on the TJs, they made it a very low pressure locker, and you could pull the hose up and just suck on the line. That was brilliant.
It was, and that wasn't an ARB design. That was actually a company called Tahiji Fuji made that locker from 03 to 06 in the Dana axles. It was a very low pressure air locker, and that's what the original TJs had in them. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. That's a great workaround too. All right, Zach, thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to have you back. What a wealth of knowledge. And I apologized before we started about Chris just berating you with be on the show, but it was well worth it. So, and thank you guys for making such great axles, because we beat the hell out of those things, and 9 times out of 10 they get us home, and that's the most important thing.
No, we thank you for buying them and supporting the brand. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
You too.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.